Hi everyone, this is Patricia. Hoping you guys are having a good summer. I am still in the UK with Arun and his wonderful family, and I have been having a great time over here. I have never been to Europe before coming into this trip, and it's been a wonderful experience being able to just explore what the country has to offer and being able to go to many places and meet up with many people. I've been having a great time, and I hope that you guys are having a good time with your summer as well. So what you're about to listen to are the episode recaps of Season 2B of the 2020 Disney Channel animated series The Owl House that we have covered on Arun and Patricia. So for those who don't know, Arun and Patricia is a weekly podcast series where we talk about various pop culture news, and we've been watching Season 2 of The Owl House. But that's not the only show we talk about. We've also covered and completed the 2019 Disney Channel animated series Amphibia, and we talked about Season 1 of the Disney/Pixar animated series Monsters at Work. So I want to let you know that there are major spoilers ahead. If you have not seen Season 2 of The Owl House, then go check it out on Disney Plus, Disney Now, Hulu, or wherever that you can to support the official release. If you have not tuned in to our other recaps of Season 2 of The Owl House, then go check it out on Arun and Patricia, or you can check it out on the YouTube links on the description below. I also want to give off an apology on the audio issues that we had on the Season 2 finale, King's Tide. When Arun and I recorded that episode of Arun and Patricia, I had moved out of my apartment and I was at a temporary home until we could move into our new place. So the audio issues are terrible because the connection was really, really bad. So major apologies if you are not able to hear me properly or if I cut out in between the discussion. So, if you have caught up with the episodes, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Okay, so we are going to go right into the Owl House, Edge of the World, and good grief, this episode, I mean, and it seems to be like every week now, we seem to just kind of like go really hard and really heavy into the emotion. It's pretty much turning into hey, here's the show where, it's, crying gay witches. Pretty much at this point, and yeah, it is. And I'm trying to not make fun of the show, but it is starting to get to the point where there's not been a character who hasn't cried in 3 episodes. It just seems to be this seems to be where we're going. So the episode starts with a dream sequence. King thinks he's meeting his dad for the first time, and everyone's dressed up and everything. That turns out not to be true. King wakes up, and Luz is now ready to talk about the events that happened in Hollow Mind. So we get a small Owl House thing, and then after that, here's the thing about this: once again, Luz misrepresents the events of what happened in Hollow Mind. She doesn't she doesn't tell what the collector said correctly. He said he's gonna
exactly. This is the second time this has happened. It's I don't know whether that she's so traumatized as to what happened that she is not able to fully remember. But yeah, this is just unbelievable that this has happened, in which Luz is misremembering what the collector was saying.
Yeah, you feel really bad for her because, and by the way, we're not the only ones who do. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but Luz has been through so much, as through that, and through so much trauma that any 14-year-old should go through. Pretty much, and not to say that we've not been through characters who have been through this before, but the fact that they go through all these events and they are still affected by those events, that is realism. Pretty much, and that is because, how many times have you and I, been through characters who, go through traumatic events but then are fine by the next episode? Well, if
you would talk about, in the early shows, I could say that, but not in recent shows.
Exactly, yeah, but, not in recent shows, but, the shows that we grew up with. The hero would save the day even though, he'd been through, this kind of, traumatic event, and then, the next episode, they're perfectly fine.
That's pretty much all of them. You have Batman, you have Superman, even with Arnold and Helga, where there's they went through something, but then in the next episode they're perfectly fine, no problems. But here it's oh man, we're going through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. It's Oh man, I mean,
Uh,
it's unbelievable about how overwhelming it
And by
is.
the way, this is stacking up. Like, Luz is not okay, even after she's basically spoken about what's gone on. And she's even at the point where it's like, but here's the thing, like, she's still got this, this feeling that she can't even, like, stop to soak it all in. Like, obviously the Day of Unity is coming, in a week's time now, and they need to do something about it. And Lilith then hears about what happens, and so she comes into the fray, and so she's gonna help plan how to stop Bellows, and she even blames herself for like what has transpired. So then Hootie then ends up getting so excited about Lilith going reuniting with her that she ends up throwing up and throws up the letter that he ate at the very end of knock knock knocking on Hootie's door. And
Yeah.
that
And
yeah.
so King was looking at the letter and he was saying, hey, if you want to know who you truly are, then come to this location that's marked here on the letter, and gives him a piece of rock. And then that was when Ida was saying, oh, no way. You guys are going into hiding because you have been in Emperor Bellows' mind. He knows that you were there. And so they're going to, send his soldiers out to get you. So Luz doesn't want to hide because she wants to fight back, knowing that, she blames herself for inadvertently, helping Emperor Bellows go to where he is. And then we have Lilith suggesting, hey, why don't we just let them go over there anyway? And, maybe it wouldn't hurt because we don't have a lot of allies, which, by the way, she's right, because unlike Amphibia, in which like we had sections of episodes dedicated to Anne and the Planters looking for allies to help fight against King Andrias. Other than maybe like Gus and Willow and Amity and maybe like some of the members of the Emperor's Coven who are like, being rebellious, there's not really much of an army that can go up against Bellows. So, they're hoping that maybe that this group of warriors that King believes that is going to be his family will be able to help them out with the fight against Bellows, which, by the way, the Day of Unity is happening in a week.
So they go off to find King's family, and so they go off and do that. But mind you, that they then basically concentrate not too much. Actually, funny enough, this episode actually is one of the very few episodes where we actually concentrate on the main point and not like go off on like another arc. Like have you noticed that actually that the whole thing kind of like takes place like on the other side of the world, and we don't seem too much like Ida and Lilith in their arc in all of this. Like we see something at the beginning, we see something at the end. But
Yeah, you're
yeah.
right. And I have a theory as to why, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. So, but even then, like, Lilith is actually joking around about, going like sending them off on a wild loose chase, and then Ida, funnily enough, you would think that she would be on with the joke, but she actually breaks down and starts crying. Like because she herself feels so guilty about what has happened in the last couple of episodes and also pretty much for pretty much the whole of the show, because she thought that Luz was just like some lost kid, and now she feels responsible for keeping Luz in the Boiling Isles, and the fact that she's been through all of this, and that she's only a child and she shouldn't have to go through all of that. And so
Yeah.
Lilith ends up having to comfort her because of that. And so then they both agree that they're going to do something about it, and what that something's going to be, we're going to have to probably figure out for another episode, because obviously the majority of the episode is dedicated to King and his basically his backstory.
Yeah,
So
I mean, a lot of people seem to overlook sometimes that at the end of the day, Luce and King are essentially children. Luce is 14, King is 8. So, for those who are complaining, saying like, oh, why aren't they even braver than what they are? Why can't they be able to defend themselves? Why are they just breaking down and crying? It's like, because they're children. You would be a similar situation if any of all this stuff was happening to you.
I think this is the disconnect of this show, because here's the thing about this, like, this show, I mean, whether people like it or not, I feel like is built more for you, me, not so average fangirl, Morgan Terry, I am Zamba, like, all the people who are reacting to it right now, most of the people who are in their 20s and 30s, do you notice that there's actually a generational shift in Disney Plus when it comes to the Owl House and when it comes to Amphibia? Like,
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm interested to see if there is going to be any research done in regards to like who the Owl House ended up kind of like appealing to, and I guarantee you that the audience share, I think, is going to be far older than I think Disney, or I think even most people are expecting. I
Yeah,
think.
and I guess I guess that's one of the reasons why that Disney was so scared of showcasing the Owl House with more episodes because they didn't want to target the older audience. They wanted to target the 6 to 11-year-old demographic.
Yeah, but hey, cartoons with intelligent storylines. Oh no, we don't want that. Good.
Yeah, they're pushing more towards episodic shows like Big City Greens and The Ghost and Molly McGee.
Exactly. So anyway, going back to the story, we go back to Salty, and it turns out that the Golden Guard is no longer in charge of them anymore, and so Salty's basically been abandoned by all his crewmates who have gone on to greener pastures, and so he single-handedly takes them over to another. By the way, this is taking them away from the Titan and to another beast, from what he
Yes.
says. So apparently, there's more than one Titan in this world, from what I
Yeah.
can see. So, but something actually interesting was pointed out as well, because the other beast that they're going to, apparently, I think somewhere down the line, I think they said that wasn't a Titan, from what they were saying. Apparently, it
Yeah.
was something
I mean,
else.
yeah, they were saying that it was something else, but we don't know what.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like, do you remember back in the episode where we were first looking at King? His backstory about where he
Yeah.
originally came from. If you looked at the hieroglyphics, if you saw like a creature that kind of looked like Ridley from like Metroid, and if you look that other beast that they went to, that other island with like all those bones on it, like it looks similar to like the one that's like on the kit and on the wall paintings.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, so maybe whatever that was the thing that King's dad was potentially fighting, and maybe probably fell down from. I don't know. Maybe because I mean that's the thing that we're looking at the moment anyway in regards to the story. But they go to this other beast. They find these other people there who originally we thought were King's like relatives. And like they all thought like they were the same, species as King, and we're going to learn a bit more about them. Turns out that's not the case. Turns out that they're actually what they call Titan trappers, and they actually are like a multi-generational bunch of hunters who basically hunted and killed these Titans back when they were kids, or probably even older than that, potentially. So.
Yeah, so we find out that the person that we've been seeing throughout this entire, section of the season 2 episodes, like the quote unquote demon that we've been seeing in Edith's Requiem and Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door, is not King's father. So, oh well. So his name is Tarek. And then he brings him over to Titan Trappers Island, and he introduces everyone over to King, and they're like all really happy that, hey, we have another member of the Titan Trappers, and we're gonna train you so that you can be a Titan Trapper too. And King is really excited because it's like, oh wow, I finally get to meet my family. And so Tarek then tells Luce and Hootie about their leader Bill. And then we have, Luce and Hootie meeting up with Bill so that they can be able to convince him, hey, Emperor Belus is going to be doing something crazy in a week in the Day of Unity. We need your help. And then we have, King going through a montage of training. And we're thinking that everything is going great until Bill reveals something. And we have Bill saying that, he was the only one who saw a Titan and who was able to interact with a Titan while everybody else was too young to even remember.
When we just going back to the fact that the person was called Bill, I'm really surprised all our hearts didn't sink at that point, because who else do we know that's pretty chaotic who's also called Bill?
Yeah, that's very true. But interestingly enough, the person who voices as Bill is Chris Houghton, who is the co-creator of Big City Greens, and he's the voice of Cricket. And he also has a character in the show named Bill. But he's a nice Bill. He's the father of Cricket and Tilly, and he's like a really humble farmer. So I guess in Disney, there's everybody who's named Bill is not a bad guy or chaotic.
Okay. And also, there was something else as that as well. Dana Terrace, when she took the screenshots, where did you think she got that screenshot from?
I wonder where. It's not cable.
Yeah, it's a particular club, I think, that many Owl House fans are familiar with. So that's
Yeah.
where, yeah. So and she even like even acknowledges saying like even she doesn't have cable either. So like,
I mean, to
just
be
imagine.
fair, every
Just imagine that for a second. Like, you create this show, and you can't even you don't even like get the ability to like watch it, without having to like pirating your own show.
wow. Wow, I mean, how much money was Dana Terrace paid where she can't even afford cable to watch her own show?
I know, like it's ridiculous. But so anyway, moving on with that, we'll probably talk about that in a later date. But so in regards to the story, so it turns out that these, Titan trappers are by people who want to kill Titans and want to kill King in particular. So they take him over to like this kind of like this sacrifice thing. But here's the interesting thing about this: we're reintroduced to the Collector's Mirror that now has basically got smashed. So, so interesting to see where they got this mirror, where they got this thing from. Like, how it ended up in the hands of those people, pretty much. And maybe he's like, is that the only one, or is there like a second one? That's
Maybe there is. Maybe there's one with the sun, and maybe there's one with the moon.
Maybe, but
Maybe Bellows has the sun, and maybe they
no,
have
but
the
Bellows
moon.
has the moon. It definitely is a moon-shaped thing that he had.
Okay, then you're right. How did they get it in the first place? I mean, we knew that Bill was saying like, "Oh, our god is the huntsman, and we need to be able to do what the huntsman says by killing off all of these titans." So maybe Bellows gave it to them, and then at some point it got shattered for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting to see how we got. And also keep this in mind. Like, apparently, it's at the point where they cannot, summon the Collector without basically killing somebody before that. So they end up having to kill a Titan in order to kill King in order to basically summon the Collector. So, but Luz stops it in its tracks before it gets any further and manages to save King. And then King finally finds out that these people are not, his kind, and that they're actually just just a bunch of witches in cosplay, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I mean, we should have known this from the very beginning because when Tarek first introduces himself and then he sees King, it's like, I see that you got your handsome skull from your father. So, yeah, because they wear skulls as masks to disguise themselves. So he assumes that King's father was a Titan trapper. And so maybe when he passed away, he passed his skull on to King. And so they thought that he was wearing a costume this entire time.
Yeah. So, in order to escape them, Luz ends up King ends up using his voice powers to destroy the portal on the other side, and so pretty much they're trapped on the other side of the world now, pretty much. And then King, another character ends up crying and says he wants to go home, and then he has like this moment where he has this he feels like he has this connection with when they go back to the Boiling Isles, and he sees the Titan there, and now he feels like he has a connection to that now. So
yeah, like right before we go into that, we also have to mention about, before that he realized that he wasn't one of the Titan trappers, King was talking to Luz saying that, he was hoping that this would, that this was his family because he knew that Luz was going to be leaving and that, he was going to be pretty much on his own. So he needed to have like a sense of family.
Well, he had Ida.
Yeah, that is true. I guess he does have Ida, but and of course he has Hootie as well. But he was introducing Tarek that Luz was his human / friend / sister. So there's a closer connection with that King has to Luz than we give them credit for.
Yeah. So so there's that, and then pretty much the final scene is that the Emperor's scouts and pretty much the Emperor's army is surrounding the Owl House, obviously because they can, because Hootie's not there to protect it. So, but interestingly enough, I don't know, I don't think... here's the thing about this. I don't think this is what it seems to be. I don't know whether it's going to be that Ida and Lilith either fled the scene already and that they've gone to go see their mother or something like that, or are they they're in hiding somewhere, or
yeah, I think they're already in hiding because from the very moment that when they were giving the suggestion about hey, let's go to this island, Hootie in the background says, I think I heard something marching in the forest. So we knew that they were on their way to the Owl House. So we got this foreshadowed a lot earlier in the episode.
Or, like, the other side could be of this is that, Ida and Lilith get intentionally captured, get thrown into the conformatorium, and then they go into the conformatorium and raise havoc. And they free a lot of, like, wild witches in the process.
Maybe you're right. I mean, we have seen them do that before, so that could be a possibility. Although it would be a lot harder now because they don't have any magic anymore.
Well, there's Harpy Ida, so, like, there's plenty of stuff that she can do in doing that. And, who knows, maybe Lilith probably now, this is what we're going to see Harpy Lilith, maybe.
Maybe that'd be a possibility. Or, maybe at some point, Ida will teach Lilith how to use glyphs, so maybe they can be able to do that too.
Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, some fallout off this episode is that some fans were upset that basically we didn't hear from Hunter in this episode. And all we basically got was that, Salty was no longer working for the Golden Guard. And that's the reason why he could basically help them out. But here's the thing about this. Like, unfortunately, this show has been cut short. And so not everybody's going to get an equal amount of time. And, I got up thinking that, we've got another episode coming up soon. And Gus teams up with an unlikely ally. And I think that unlikely ally is going to be Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories as to who the unlikely ally is going to be. It could be Hunter. Maybe it could be maybe it could be Ida and Lilith. Or maybe it could be Rain, Eberwolf, and Darius. Or, some people are even saying maybe it could be Steve. Because there's a promo picture of Steve that's there that hasn't been used yet in any of the episodes. So maybe that could be a possibility. But we won't know about that until next week.
The way I feel like it's going right now is that... keep this in mind, like, they're going to be bringing everybody in who have, like, those coven sigils. And so, I'm kind of thinking they're going to be rounding them up and then taking them all towards the, the time for the draining spell. And so, it could be a situation where, the draining spell could happen, and then the only, people who can basically help out are basically end up being, being the kids. So, it might end up being, like, Luz, Amity, Gus, Willow, Hunter potentially, but Hunter's got like a sigil, so I don't know if he's going to be any help or not. But mind you, he's not got any magic anyway, so I think I don't think he'd be too badly affected by it. And also, he's a Grimwalker, so it might end up being those five basically having to stop Emperor Bellows, or even stopping the Collector from doing whatever they're doing. And then we go into season then we're going to go into like the specials in season 3. Mm-hmm. So that seems to be the way it seems to be panning out, at least in my mind, anyway. So.
Yeah, and we will definitely be hearing more about King and, where he's going to be in terms of, like, this whole story in 2 weeks from now with O Titan, Where Art Thou? Where we will get some more information about what's King's destiny. So, in the meanwhile, we will be tuning in next week to focus on Gus and his unlikely allies. So, I guess we'll be finding more information about that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Owl Have Labyrinth Runners. Wow.
Oh
okay,
gosh.
Get this, everybody, right? A great Owl House episode that did not feature Ida, King, or Luz. Or Lilith, for that matter.
Nope.
All it focused on, right, was basically... so Gus is the main character. So he's basically the character of this one. And so the idea is that Gus... We start off with this cold open, which, is very, very... a lot of people have been in this situation where, they feel really intelligent and then they get taken advantage of by, some asshole.
Yeah.
Basically. And so Gus is really, cut up about it. But we actually get to see the origins of Gus and Willow becoming friends. Yep. And this is when, Willow was in the Abomination Coven and she felt like an outsider herself, pretty much, because of the track that she was asked to follow. So, Willow and Gus end up becoming friends, and that's basically the intro for the cold open for the Owl House.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I think that might have been the last time that Gus's voice actor was able to voice as young Gus right before he hit puberty.
Yeah. So, some of the highlights that we pick up from this episode is that Gus finds Flapjack searching for trash, to feed, Hunter, because he has had a massive climb down, I guess we can arguably say, from, being in the Emperor's Coven. He is now living in the theater hall, I believe, and is basically living in his own trash of a hex mix and a sleeping bag. So, he denies it at first, but, Gus actually sympathizes with the situation, you would think that, Gus was the character who basically mistrusted Hunter, the Golden Guard, or, had always, misgivings about him, and rightly so. He was the Emperor's right hand man in concocting all his schemes, and but no, Gus actually takes pity on him and actually gives him a sandwich. So
yeah, and apparently he decides to use the sandwich as an excuse to helping him.
Yeah, sure, it's the sandwich.
Yeah, it was a really good sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we finally get the introduction of the head of the Illusion Coven, who is Adrian Gray, and he's this very dramatic emperor as coven head leader, where he's basically making this whole thing out like it was like a movie or a play. It's like, you need to act it out, you need to have more feeling, you need to be more you need to be more convincing of your act. And so it starts off with him coming out and then saying that the day of unity is coming and I need all of you to sign up to a coven now. And so he decides to start off with just like saying to Edric, saying like, okay, you're gonna be stuck into the Illusion Coven, even though that he had literally just started with being a part of the Beasthead Coven and the Potions Coven.
Actually, there's one thing we actually kind of looked on, because now it's at the point where multiple students now are taking multiple tracks.
Yeah.
So you can see that the whole track system, the whole coven system, is now starting to unravel at the Hex side.
Yeah.
And so the Emperor's Coven has got word of this, and now that's basically where we end up with Adrian, trying to basically kind of disrupt what's going on for the Day of Unity. So we get that, and then but before Edric ends up having his being fixed into his sigil. By the way that they're doing this is that we're going to put on these fake sigils, for you to get away with it. But Gus sees right through the illusion, blows up the entire act, and then that's it. Basically, the whole thing's exposed. I don't know how to feel that. It is played for laughs, I guess you could say. But they have the Emperor's Coven scouts kind of like acting as kind of like crew of of a movie, things like that. Like it would have made more sense to have other illusionists, wouldn't you think, to kind of like be part of the scheme? But
again, we know that 3 of them is not a part of it.
Exactly. So, but I mean, obviously they did what they did. Maybe it was because they didn't want to end up drawing new characters for it, I guess. But that's one thing actually we noticed, actually, because you'll notice that they actually been like reusing a lot of the different characters over and over again, and also some of the same designs as well. Like that's the reason why you see who is it in the Beast and Healing Coven? Was it?
You're talking about you're talking about
Viney. Yeah, that's the reason you'll see Viney with the Griffin character, because that's the model that they've had for ages, and obviously that's the model that they're going to stick with, because they just don't have the budget to draw characters at the moment because the show's coming to an end.
Exactly.
So you'll see a lot of repeating elements currently going through the outhouse.
And I guess it does make a lot of sense because it all takes place in Hexside.
Exactly. So we have that. So one thing interesting is that we have another by the way, this also has plenty of arcs currently going for it as well. We have the arc of Principal Bum finally standing up to the Emperor's Coven and saying this is my school and this is what I'm gonna do. He's, mind you, we kind of knew this all along anyway. So, but I think this is the first time he's actually put his foot down and said, no, this ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually gotten a lot of development of Principal Bump over the past few weeks. I mean, first, remember with Them's the Breaks Kid, we get to see about his origins, where he first started off that he didn't want to be this strict principal like Faust was, and so we get to see that maybe following the Emperor's Coven to the T is wrong, and maybe the transition to multiple covens maybe wasn't a terrible oh man, this is a really unorthodox idea because that's not how the Emperor was. It's yeah, but here's the thing. It's actually been able to get more people invested in education and wanting to show off all the skills that they can do that isn't just relying on one thing.
Mm-hmm. So there was that, and so another that we're going on in now is that Willow and Amity have basically rekindled their friendship, but probably not in the way that Amity kind of perceives it. I think Amity still sees Willow as still not as strong as her, which I think is Willow somewhat understands, because Amity has always kind of that's been her perception of Willow being a late bloomer and not seeing her as strong as her. Also keep this in mind, they started off as pretty much as Amity bullying pretty much Willow because she was in the above abomination track, and when she didn't want to be, she wanted to be in the plant track.
Yeah.
So there was all those dynamics also playing into it as well, which I think it also perceives into Amity's, bias towards Willow, saying that, oh, well, because you didn't do too well in the abomination track, I don't think you're going to do well, like, even though I think you're strong enough in the plant track. So, Willow basically is end up in the situation of, like, having to say to Amity, look, I'm as strong as you, I'm stronger than you think, and so ends up kind of proving that when she ends up like lifting up a bookcase and throwing it at people. Mm-hmm. So we get through that arc, and Amity's looks like Shen's very apologetic to Willow, think of that, and gets a bit more of an understanding of her, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was that, and then I think the main story that we're going through is Gus becoming trusting of Hunter, and Hunter becoming a trusting of Gus. And the one thing also that plays into that is that Gus teaches Hunter about his breathing exercises to keep him calm,
which he learned from Willow.
And by the way, that plays interestingly. I love how that plays interestingly into the fact that because at one point Gus is tricked into believing that Willow, quote unquote, is like not an illusion. In actuality, in fact, it is. It's a character. I think it was it called Sinister? Was it?
Seraphine, I think.
Yeah, Seraphine.
Yeah, because because basically she tries to be like convincing that she is Willow, even though that Hunter knew right away that wasn't Willow, because why would she be afraid of Hunter when they were like really close friends?
Exactly. So and then but at one point, like Hunter gets gassed, and by the way, they do this one spell circle, which they said, oh no, don't do that, we just want to knock him out, which is like, oh my god, like they were trying to kill him. Like that was one thing that found that pattern out. By the way, that was like one of the spoilers actually I ended up accidentally coming across, because it was like, oh my god, they tried to kill Hunter. That was that. And but then when he comes to, he ends up in the healing room in there. And this was actually really clever because, Principal Bump was ready to, torture pretty much Hunter for, saying, oh, I still believe that you're part of the Emperor's Coven, you're the reason why all this mess is going on. And they were willing to even hand him over to the Emperor pretty much, and to do that. And so, but then Hunter says, oh, well, it was Gus who taught me, the breathing exercise, and then Willow picks up on that and says, wait, that's what I taught Gus, so I believe that he was with him the entire time.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I love the cute thing that with one of the members of I can't remember what her name is, the person who likes all the plans.
Oh, Skara.
Yeah, Skara, yeah. So Skara likes the fact oh, let's come up with a plan, and she gets really super excited about it.
We did know about this because in Any Sport in a Storm, she was the one who basically came up with all the plans.
That's why I like it, because in Any Sort of the Storm, she's the one that comes up with the plans, the strategies for basically getting to win the match.
Exactly,
yeah. So there was that. So we end up with the climax, and we end up with Gus, being, I think ended up being kind of captured by Adrian, and then when he tries to do something to Gus to kind of break him out of his illusion, he ends up making Gus stronger, ends up creating all these horrible illusions for everybody surrounding him, including Hunter.
Yeah.
And so Hunter basically goes for flashbacks to pretty much the Hollow Mind, pretty much, and all the crazy stuff that happened in that episode. And so Hunter then uses the breathing exercises to start keep him calm from doing that, and then he manages to get to Gus in his own kind of illusion. He's pretty much in his own private hell at that point.
And not to mention that we need to remember that there was also the Hall of the Illusionists that Adrian was looking for, because he was going to collect the Galder stones for Emperor Belus, and he said, hey, how do you know about this place? Tell me about it. And so he basically brings out his magnifier, where he's able to read off the memories of Gus, and Gus was able to use his ability to bring out the worst memories of everybody, to the point in which it actually traumatized Adrian really, really badly, and almost Hunter too, if it wasn't for the fact that Hunter calmed himself enough so that he can be able to reach over to Gus, and they were able to calm each other together. And I thought that was actually really clever.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really glad that they kind of also they were digesting trauma as well, which I think was a great, thing to kind of like, given the fact all the trauma we've been through in regards to like the last couple of episodes with all our characters recently. I think this episode, was necessary to kind of say, okay, this is kind of how you deal with kind of these things. And so, I'm not suggesting that, they're going to defeat Ember Bellows with breathing exercises. I'm not suggesting that's going to be the fix. But I think that, mind you, the one thing I take away from this episode is that, Gus, Willow, Amity are very powerful. And also Hunter himself is also coming into his own too. Luz, we already know, can know multiple spells at this point. So we're building up our characters to the point where I think they're going to be the ones who basically take down Emperor Bellows. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, the Owl Lady still is playing a role in this, but, obviously we won't know that probably until the next episode.
Exactly, yeah. So, next episode is going to be huge for King, because it's going to be, Oh Titan, Where Art Thou?, where he's going to learn more about, his destiny, and apparently it's going to be something massive, and... yeah, that's going to be interesting, but unfortunately, like we said before, we won't be able to talk about it in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, but, Mike, hey, at least we can still be there for the ride, so...
that's true, very
yeah.
Good, yeah.
But I think in regards to where we're going up now, this isn't going to be, exclusively about King, I don't think, at this point. I think, King is going to be a part of it, because now we know he's a Titan.
Yes.
So, but one of the theories I come up with is that, I've always thought that, Hunter, King would be the ticket... well, not the ticket, but kind of like one of the maybe the vehicle that Troy gets loose back home to Earth, to the Earth realm. I think so, because and also they still got that blood that they took from King, but they didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
I wanted it to be a joke where basically they find it in the fridge, and it's kind of like he's like, King, why have you put your blood right next to the the mayonnaise or something like that? Like, good grief, that'd be hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
I think that also another thing that's going to be huge in terms of the plot is that Gus took Adrian's magnifier, where he's able to read off the memories. I think that that's going to be saved off for something down the line.
I think so too, because if characters don't keep particular things for no reason, I'm pretty sure they're going to use them for something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and finally Hunter is able to say, hey, the Day of Unity is not just a Day of the Titan or anything like that. It's something even more serious. And then Principal Bump approaches him saying, tell us everything you know. And that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting, I think, is that we're rapidly coming towards the Day of Unity now.
Yes,
I think,
we are.
we are.
As we learned in the last episode, it's going to be in a week.
Yeah, and we're going to be building up towards the specials coming up too.
Yeah, and the season 2 finale. That's when the Day of Unity begins.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Owl House, because, oh boy, have we built up to the final episode very, very well, so the season finale of Season 2. So, we are going to start off with the third to last episode, which is the name kind of like, because the other one's Cloud on Horizons. Titan, there are thou. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So,
we've been gone for quite a while, so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, we start off with King, and we learn from King that he has now some kind of connection with the Collector. And now, the story of the Collector. Now, originally, I might have to take some of my words back, because I thought the Collector seems to be this creepy mofo, which we were happy to see lose defeat at some point. But I don't know. After watching these 2 episodes, my thoughts on the Collector are starting to kind of turn a little bit. Same thing with Creepy Luz. And maybe we should have learned our lesson from Creepy Luz.
Maybe we should have. It's like, maybe this loose character that we saw at the end of Enchanting Gromfright maybe is not so bad, and then everybody was freaking out. And very similar to the Collector, it's like, oh wow, in Hollow Mind we see this shadow following Emperor Bellows, talking about spreading chaos into the world and wanting to play games and stuff like that. Oh man, this is the true villain. And now when we start seeing it little bit at a time, it's like, wait a minute, are we thinking that maybe the Collector isn't the true villain? I mean, we see this in the dream that King has, where he's in the in-between, and the Collector's talking about, the Day of Unity, and I get to play, and I get to do all this kind of stuff. And then, King wakes up, and, this follows the events that happened around 2 weeks ago, because last week we talked about Labyrinth Runners, where we saw Gus and Willow and Hunter, and then the previous episode before that we found out that the letter that we thought of the person who was King's father or guardian or whoever, it wasn't. It was just a bunch of Titan trappers. So it takes place right after that, and so then we have, for some reason, the third time in this series where Luce is misremembering something again, or maybe they talked about it and it wasn't revealed to us, where she tells King, you're a Titan, you're the son of the Boiling Isles. We never heard her say that.
Yeah, like her memories are kind of like really, really strange. We're going to lose. Like she seems to remember differently from what she actually said. So, like, but mind you, like, here's the thing, though, like, I think in this instance, like, at least the additional bit at least makes sense, because, King, learning that he's now the Titan, or he is a Titan now, like, I think that he grasped that pretty much. I think maybe that line was just added in to kind of give more explanations for the uninitiated. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So... But, now we are in the situation where, I'm trying to actually kind of, like, because at the moment, like, I'm still focused on Clouds on the Horizon at the moment, like, everything that kind of, like, build up to that. Like, this is the episode where, where Luz, King, and Hootie do make their way back to the Owl House to find that everything's been confiscated and, Ida and Lilith are missing. So they do eventually find them, because they do leave a message, to say that where they have gone, and they funny. I love the bit where, like, they trip the trap and they're there kind of like hanging over there, and that was quite hilarious in itself. And so they do finally catch up with Ida and Lilith, but even though they've now hidden away from the Owl House, they still don't have a plan of how they're going to basically stop the draining spell.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why is because they have no allies, they're powerless, and the Day of Unity is going to be in 2 days, and they're running out of time. And so Ida comes up with the idea that the only way that Luce and King are going to be safe, and being able to come up with this idea of, like, going over to the warehouse to grab Francois, which is King's little toy bunny, and basically, hoping that maybe Ida can be able to relay a message over to Rain saying, listen, if you get my kids safe, I'll turn myself in, because she still doesn't know that Rain, still has their memories intact, because we saw that Tara was giving Rain the tea to wipe off their memories, but Ida thinks that there's something wrong with them, but we know that that's not the case. So,
yeah. But even before then, like, there was the bit where, they must have known at this point that, the Owl House was definitely coming to an end, because, they got Ida and Luz to take a swipe at Disney. During their journey over to the warehouse, and because if you recall, Ida says, "Oh, well, wouldn't you rather have a beach day?" Like, referring to a beach episode that you and I have been discussing that might happen down the line, and we now definitely know that that's not going to happen because of this show being cut short. And Luz basically sounds like, oh well, if we had another 20 adventures, we could look at that, but we don't. And so that was a swipe at it. And by the way, not only did the show acknowledge what was going on, but some of the Disney official social media accounts clipped that episode and even put it out for people to see. So, like, I'm guessing that there is, not only are the people within the Owl House show also upset about what's happened, but a lot of people in, the Disney social media, team seem to be pretty upset about it too.
Of course, because remember, it was one Disney executive who said that it didn't fit their brand, not the entire, corporate business itself.
Yeah, but they all went along with it. So
I'm sure they had no other choice.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, I mean, like, it was an executive. It wasn't the executive.
Well, I mean, I'm sure an executive would have more power than a lot of other positions.
I mean, if it's Bob Chapek, I mean, like, yeah, we would like, obviously they'd be more like that. But I don't know. Like, it's again, I don't know how the politics of Disney works. Like, it's been a pretty crazy time over the last couple of months. I think we can all agree. So, I think, but putting that all to one side. So, then we do get to the warehouse, and then we get this really interesting parallel between the first episode and this episode, because Ida wants to send Luz away to basically be safe, but Luz overhears that, and you can't blame her for being angry, because she feels like she's once again being sent away again, pretty much by another parental figure.
Yeah, exactly. In the first episode, her mom wanted to send Luce away to a quote unquote normal camp because she was causing a lot of trouble at the school. And she feels that, oh, this is what's best for you, because I think that you should be able to use your creativity in a more senseful way. And so that's why she ran away she didn't run away to the Boiling Isles because she didn't know about it. But that's why she decided to stay around the Boiling Isles as opposed to I'm just going to go back into the portal door and then just go over to summer camp. But instead, we have this moment in which when Ida is telling Rain, please, send Luce and King away somewhere while the Day of Unity is going on, and I'll be taken in prisoner. And Luce was really upset about it because she feels that, oh, you're just underestimating me, when in reality, it's like, this is way bigger than what is going to be happening, especially since I don't even think Luce even knows the details of the Day of Unity. We know about the fact that, King is not part of the Titan Trappers because he is a Titan, but I don't know about if Luce at that point even knew about the draining spell. So I think that when Luce and Ida started fighting so that, she can be able to prove a point, that was actually a pretty harsh moment, considering that, seeing both of them fight each other just so that, they can be able to prove a point was just really dramatic. And especially it really starts building up when they get captured.
Mm-hmm. So they end up fighting with one another, and they end up getting captured because of it. And then Ida blurts out to Luz that there is no plan for the draining spell. I was just trying to protect you. And by the way, Ida's voice breaks. At the end of this, and that's the first time obviously we've seen Ida be upset, like in one of the previous episodes, but this is pretty out of the character of the voice actress to kind of emote in Ida in this way, and so it does really catch you off guard, and it really does strike you, So.
Yeah, and Wendy Malick did a really, really good job in that scene where she was able to, put away the fun and goofiness of Ida and talking more seriously to Luce and telling her, no, we do not have a plan. We're powerless. We're useless. I want to keep you safe. And she starts breaking down and crying. And that was a really, really strong moment.
Yeah. Would you believe that she did, comedies at one point in the 90s?
Yeah. She was in a lot of sitcoms, and like we mentioned before, she's done a lot of voiceover work and Emperor's New Groove and The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius and various other things. So yeah, that was fantastic acting. It just goes to show you how versatile Wendy Malick could be.
Mm-hmm. So they're led away, and but Rain has obviously intervened and has guided them, to their secret hideout. And so not only though is Rain there, not only is Ida there to greet Luz, but Darius is there, Eberwolf is there, and the former Bats people are there too.
Yeah, that was awesome that we were able to see Katya, Amber, and Derwin there, and it was like a major surprise because I legitimately thought that Ida was going to go into the conformatorium and Luz was going to be taken over to a place that you would give her much more maximum security, and no, it just turned out that Ida was able to give the message to Rain just in time for them to be taken over to the hideout.
Mm-hmm. So, by the way, while all this is going on, King has a discovery moment with trying to relate more to his dad, and Steve of all people takes him around the Boiling Isles to have that moment with for King. And also King turns a corner here because he's wanted his entire life to kind of be this feared ruler of everything, and now that he's somewhat finally got it because now he realizes he's a Titan, he doesn't want it anymore. And so,
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah.
Lilith was just saying like, oh, he's a titan. He should be treated as a ruler and all that kind of stuff. And we saw in the first season, this is exactly what King wanted. He wanted power. I mean, the first mission literally was to get his crown. And so, in the first season we kind of like saw that where, he was wanting power, he wanted to rule everything, he wanted to take over the playground, but now he's completely changed. He doesn't want this anymore. He doesn't want to be treated as a monster.
So he goes through his story arc, and so he's matured pretty well, and so he's also included in with the now formed cats, the Covens Against the Throne. And by the way, Darius did not agree to this name. So,
No, he didn't.
and so they're now all together. And by the way, I mean, I don't know if I've not had a chance to get like a good look at like the Cats logo, but for some strange reason, it reminds me of the SWAT Cats.
Maybe it was a callback.
Maybe that'd be kind of cool. So,
Yeah.
they're all together, and by the way, Ida manages to rescue the box that says that's basically marked her long toenails, but in actual fact, it's the Palisman wood, which we were given before. Yeah.
That was a great little way to end it off, especially with now Luz finally gets the chance to carve out what her palisman is going to be. And of course, because Ida knows how to carve it because her dad taught her, now they were able to work together, and we will not find out until next week. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but once okay, say it with me, everybody. This is the best episode of the series. Until Clouds
we
on
have
the-
our next episode.
clouds
So,
on the
yes.
horizon. So
Oh my God!
Good.
What an amazing episode!
this had everything, didn't it? Like,
It was wow. Just it had action, it had hilarious moments, it had a ton of romantic moments, and it had an oh crap, what's gonna happen next kind of moment where we saw little bits of what's gonna happen with Luz, what's gonna happen with Ida, what's gonna happen with all the characters. But man, was it so good.
yeah. And by the way, I could probably imagine all the animation budget went into the kiss.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable that they were able to get away with that. Number one, because we all know what a stickler is for Disney in terms of like, LGBT representation. I mean, we've been talking about that throughout this podcast, and even with other podcast discussions on Pixmix and various other things. Like we know about in Onward that they had to, remove the line from the police officer, and we know about like, various other things that they had to cut off because China wasn't happy with it. And yeah, just seeing from that over to this kiss was just absolutely mind blowing. And major shout outs to Tom Barkle, who animated that scene. He did a really, really good job. He's a Australian animator who worked on Rise of the TMNT and various other things. So yeah, go check him out. He posted up a rough draft of him doing that kiss. So please just watch it. And he even said, as an Australian, you'd think I had animated more characters saying crikey, but this is the first time. So, yes.
But mind you, like, it's amazing that, Lumity has built up to this moment, and, after this wonderful, loving embrace between Luz and Amity, like, Luz's first reaction is basically to quote Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter.
God.
Oh, that was hilarious, but...
Oh, it's so fantastic. And that buildup was so worth it because Luz and Amity hadn't seen each other in almost a week. And so the fact that we have, Amity who is trying to, oh wait, well, I guess we should start off with how it begins with like Odalia dropping off some, giving some cargo over to Kikimora because Kikimora was demoted because of the events of what happened in Follies at the Covens Day Parade when she tried to run away to see her family reunion during the Covens Day Parade.
I don't know, like, I feel like the beginning of the episode feels a bit kind of throwaway a little bit, really, compared to everything that
No,
happens
no,
in
it
the...
doesn't. No, it doesn't, because we see the true evil side of Odalia. Like, we get to see
Really?
just how.
I mean, like,
Yes!
no, but I think we saw that more in like at the very end when, like, okay, there was the bit where Alador was basically being threatened with divorce and, like, I'm going to take the kids off you and stuff like that. Like, obviously there was that awful stuff. Like, mind you, I always thought Adalia was kind of a bitch wife anyway. So, like,
Well, I
that,
mean, also given the fact that she, like Edric, Emra, and Amity were trying to sneak in and trying to warn Odalia about this, and then she says, "You're grounded." So it's like, yeah, it starts planting the seeds there. It's like, wait a minute, why don't you want to let your children, tell you that what you're doing is wrong, and then we'll find that out about this later. And she even broke Amity's Tamagotchi, so she can't connect with Luce anymore, and so she was trying to fix it. And then Edric and and Amity are locked in the room, and you have Amity saying, "Oh man, if Luce were here, she would say something dorky but really sweet, where she would tell me to never give up and all that kind of stuff." And then around that time, we have Luce, Hunter, Gus, and Willow sneaking over to Amity so that they can be able to rescue them. And then we have that build-up moment. And then when she says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to say all of that stuff," when, Amity's last word was, before the world ends, I want to go on a real date with her. So yeah, I think that build-up to that kiss was brilliant.
Yeah, but just I mean, to finish off on the Odalia stuff, I mean, like, I feel like when Alador found out about the draining spell from King, and then he confronted Odalia about it, and then Odalia was nonplussed. Like, she was like, "Oh yeah, that was the plan all along," and like, we're gonna make a ton of money out of it, not realizing that she herself is probably going to end up getting killed because of it. Odalia is an insane fool. Which and he's probably very gullible too, from the looks of it. Like, even though she, because she's so bloodthirsty for power. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, which in a way was kind of a bit disappointing in a way, because, like, everyone else seems to kind of like get redemption arcs, but Odalia doesn't seem to get one either. Like, it's just kind of like, and I mean, like, you can kind of be forgiven. Like, also, I would have thought that, the fact that the draining spell, is going to destroy everything, and is going to be likelihood it was going to, like, affect, Black Industry's bottom line. You would have thought that, Adalia would have cared about that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
like,
I guess maybe her thoughts was like, "Oh, we're gonna be like royalty because with everybody gone, then we'll be second in line next to Emperor Bello." So it's like, hey, would you rather like make money off of like your business, or would you rather be royalty and never have to worry about that kind of stuff for the rest of your life and just worry about getting power?
Yeah, so also, like, I mean, when she was confronted by everybody, like, here's the thing, like, when she realized she was outnumbered, she backed down pretty quickly. But mind you, she said then at the very end, this kind of bothers me a little bit, like, because she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to get myself a more competent business partner." It's kind of like,
Yeah,
oh,
that was really surprising. It's
yeah,
like, wait a minute, you saw Alador as like a business partner and not like as like a partner that you have children with,
does that not
and you have
surprise
a
you?
I mean, I don't know. It's like I was thinking that in Escaping Expulsion, in which when Alador told Odalia, "No, let's leave Amity alone because she's getting stronger. Maybe she'll be a coven head someday." And then she was like, "We need to do what's best for the family." I thought that maybe there was just a little inkling that maybe she cared, but no, it was just about power. And it's like, oh man, just like, I mean, here's the thing. I will give Odalia point 1 points for her not being homophobic. Because when, Luce, Amity, Gus, Willow, and Hunter were captured, and then when Luce was trying to warn Odalia about the draining spell, saying that, Amity's trying to help people, and then when Odalia said, "You better hush, brat," and then Amity said, "Don't you dare talk to my girlfriend like that," and then she's like, "Girlfriend? Oh, no, 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 we're gonna get you a new girlfriend," as opposed to like saying, "Oh, why are you dating a girl? You should be dating a guy," or something like that. So I'll give points for that. But seriously, like negative.
I think there was a discussion in writing, I think, about that. Like, do you make Odalia homophobic? And if you do, I mean, like, it would probably, you probably would justify a lot more, Amity, being pretty angry. But mind you, I think that might also have negative connotations in itself. So I think they probably made the right decision to say that, oh, well, it's just because, I'm Lady Snooty and I'm going to, get you a better girlfriend. Like, I'm glad they went that route with it, I guess. But
yeah.
So
and it is true that Dana Terrace also mentioned that in the Boiling Isles, homophobia doesn't exist. So
okay,
there's that.
Cool. All right then. So I guess we are going to see Odalia again at some point. But mind you, like, there's one particular character I'd be kind of worried that we've not seen in a while, and that's Basha. It's I'm getting kind of like a feeling like we're gonna see her again. Like, I don't know, it's like maybe Bella's just like kitted her out with like more magic and stuff like that, and she's gonna be like a semi-final boss or something like that. I don't know. Like, it's just kind of like
Not sure.
I feel like she's gonna turn up again at some point, and like they're gonna have to fight her or stuff. Like, I don't know.
We'll see, but yeah, in the meanwhile, I think that the other stuff that was building up to this episode, I mean, I guess we have to talk about Ida's side, in which when Rain has the idea of Ida being disguised as Rain and even having a sigil so that eventually when they start draining it, then they'll start draining Ida's curse so that the effects would be corrupted. And yeah, we have this one moment in which when, Ida's like really concerned about it, saying like, if I, get the sigil, I'll never be a wild witch again. But, she's willing to do it just so that she can be able to protect the people that she loves.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually show you on camera her getting the sigil, though. So, like, it makes me feel like that she probably hasn't got it. But
well, we don't know yet. I mean, we're still going to be on the we're still going to be on the loop on whether that happened next week. But in the meanwhile, we did see that Steve was just about to give the sigil to Ida, and then Rain had this really concerned look on their face. So maybe they changed their mind about the plan, and maybe they'll find another way. I'm not sure, but I think that they are building up to something. They're going to build up to some kind of trick, but again, we'll see.
Yeah, but also another thing as well is that Emperor Bellows is aware that Ida is actually going to the Day of Unity. So,
yeah,
that's something.
And Kikimora had mentioned over to Luce that the Emperor has eyes everywhere, and so that's when she decided to come up with this plan to Gus, saying, "Disguise me as Hunter, and change Hunter to Luce. That if I get captured, Hunter will be safe, and that way I can be able to protect Ida when I get over there." So there was actually some little subtle moments that that blink and you miss kind of situations in which when you realize that Hunter is disguised as Luce and Luce is disguised as Hunter. The first thing is pretty noticeable is that when we have Kikimora attacking Hunter. Kind of like stands on the background as Luce, and then Luce as Hunter. She basically just runs in and basically like saves Willow, which by the way, saves Willow. Anyway,
yeah,
so
I think at this point, I think we know Hunter and Willow are like they like each other. I think we can
sure.
know that. But I think mind you, like interesting to see again, like I do question Hunter's mortality. Like if he ends up getting killed in battle and like Willow's like and like Hunter dies in her arms, that's gonna be pretty impactful, isn't it? If we get to that point. So
yeah, that'll be really interesting. But the thing that was really just like awesome to see was the redemption of Alador, especially when you have King talking to him saying, you should, I don't really know about children. I mean, I never even knew my dad myself, and trying to like talk to him saying like, the Day of Unity is much worse than you think. And just them together sitting down and Alador just like looking back on all the stuff that Odalia made him do, like firing half of their workers and making him work. All the time, even though that he's sick with the fire flu and not having a weekend break in 5 years, and just like, oof. I mean, I know Hunter, like he only gets like 1 day off out of a whole year, but still it's like doing it while you're sick. I mean, especially when you have a family to take care of, and that's 5 years of not being able to know your children very well. Just, jeez, man.
Yeah, but anyway, looks like he's over Adalia now. So I think yeah,
Oh yeah, they
he's
are
quit
done.
he's quit the company, and now he's. Mind you, there's something else that we also need to note as well. That in the before all that started to go down, Luz whispers into Gus's ear that, okay, here's the plan, and then using his illusion magic, he switches places between Luz and Hunter, and it's not revealed that. I mean, they drop some hints because at one point, Luz dashes to save Willow, which is totally out of character for her. Like that's more for for Hunter to do, and then all of a sudden Hunter grasps at Kikimora, which is something that Luz would do, and then Kikimora grabs what we think is Hunter, and then gets a jetpack and flies off to the Day of Unity, and then it's only revealed that on the boat that the Luz is actually Hunter, and Hunter is actually Luz. So because Gus uses illusion magic to switch them both around. And so Kikimora captured the wrong person. So then we get the finale where Luz has been taken to Bellows. But mind you, I take interest in Luz's reaction here because she's not got a reaction of fear. She's got a reaction of determination. She's going in there to to mess stuff up, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. This is a very different reaction from when she first confronted Bellows.
Very true, yeah. I mean, Luz has learned a lot since the last time that she confronted Bellows. Or, well, technically she did confront Bellows in his memory as Philip Wittebane. That's a complicated thing in itself. But, yeah, she has progressed a lot further since then. And, speaking of Luz, I guess we need to mention that her hair has grown so much that now she has to rock it in a ponytail.
Mm-hmm. Well, she has been there for a good couple of months now, hasn't she? So
yeah, she has been. I mean, almost 3 months, and her hair's been grown. In fact, there was somebody who posted on Twitter, saying about the characters have actually started to grow. They're noticing Willow is almost the same height as Luce now, and Gus is almost the same height as Willow. All three of their hairs have grown. Even to the point in which when we have Willow having her hairs and pigtails that we saw with Amity, but even then it's much longer than it was before. Gus's spiked hair has actually started becoming larger as well, and just the characters are growing in real time, which is actually a pretty awesome thing to see, because usually in a lot of these shows it would just stay the same. But no, I mean, time is moving, so that just goes to show you that they're able to, progressively get taller, and I think that that's great that they were able to put that little detail in there.
Mm-hmm. So we are building up now to King's Tide, which is going to be when the Day of Unity actually happens. So a lot of speculation of what could go down, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it is going to be a big, massive battle. I think, that we're building into. And so, interesting to see where we go with this. Because, I don't know, now focusing back on the Collector, I don't know if you can see this or not, but, also, keep in mind as well, we actually didn't talk about the Palisman either in this episode. Luz actually carves an egg in this Palisman, and and the reason why she does that is because she wants to give her Palisman the decision to what to become, right? And the same way that she had the decision of what she wanted to do. So
yeah, exactly, and I think that that's actually really interesting. I mean, I know that Dana Terrace is a huge Pokemon fan, and in Pokemon they do have eggs, and I know in Gold and Silver, the first time that you receive an egg, you don't know what Pokemon is in there. So you go around, and then eventually as time goes on, it hatches, and it could be anything. It could be a Togepi, it could be a Charmander, it could be anything. So, once again, going into the parallels of that.
Here's the thing. This is one scene that plays out in my mind. A lot of people were worried that Emperor Bellows would get hold of Luz's Palisman to eat. But I could imagine Emperor Bellows holding the egg, and before he's able to break it open, it hatches by itself, and then all of a sudden this snake just comes out of the top of it and just kind of bites him in the face. That would be a good throwback to the first scene in the whole show, wouldn't it? Getting attacked by a snake.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That would be actually a really awesome callback, if it is a snake, that is.
Yeah. Emperor Bellows, his only weakness, dying.
Yeah. So, mind you, imagine if it was a face hugger from Alien. Like, he just opens up like that, to his face. It's like, you Emperor Elgin, like, he's just dead on the floor, like that thing on his face, and then his chest bursts open. He's kind of like, yeah, now you got another problem to worry about.
Oh my god.
Oh boy, that would be something. But
That would be something, but I cannot wait for it to hatch. I mean, I know that it's not going to hatch next week. I'm going to bet that it's not going to hatch next week. I think it's going to be hatched in one of the 3 45-minute specials in season 3. So everybody, place your bets.
I'd like to talk about before we wrap up into Amphibia. There is something I noticed from when Luz said to Amity, look, we're just gonna have a mundane slice of life, date. That is not going to involve any monsters or any chasing around or anything like that. I don't know. That feels like a promise that Dana's keeping to people. I kind of thinking maybe one of these specials is legitimately going to be Luz and Amity going out on a date and nothing nothing crazy happening.
I hope so.
It'd be a ballsy 40 minutes to fill, 45 minutes to build, but she's not let us down yet. Pretty much in 2 seasons of the show. So, I think if that's the reward for, going through, a pretty, angsty season 2, and the end is, it's going to be, 45 minutes of just Lumity, or, just being very happy, and, just this date, and, okay, some things go wrong, but, obviously there's going to be, also kind of, romantic drama and stuff like that, maybe, in that, but, if that's going to be, the payment at the end of the job of, watching, all this stuff, all these heartbreak, between, Luz, Amity, and, all the other stuff that's currently going on, then I would say it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping and I'm praying that at least, one of the last things that we do see is maybe Luz's quinceañera. I would love it to kind of be one of the things that we see right before the Owl House ends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, anyway, we can't speculate any further on the Owl House because we've got another episode to go, which is King's Tide, which is going to be next week, and oh boy, is that going to be a fun return to the full version of Arun and Patricia when we get to that, so, yeah.
Oh yeah,
really
I
cool.
am super excited about King's Tide, and it's actually pretty interesting. I think even somebody pointed this out on social media, where a King's Tide, the term of it, not the actual episode, the term King's Tide is when the ocean is at its highest point. So a low tide is when the ocean is at its lowest point and there's not a lot of waves. King's Tide is a high point in which there's a lot of waves. So I think that that's going to be a really good title, considering that the Day of Unity will begin next week. So yeah, we are in for a wild ride.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into, I think, what everyone's been looking forward to, and that's our thoughts on the Owl House Season 2 season finale, King's Tide. And I have to say, this episode packed in, once again, a lot of stuff within a 22-minute episode, which I think was incredible. Again, hats off to the writing team who had to basically do all of this. And so, and by the way, it's not like it's not like they were they chose to do this. Unfortunately, this is where they kind of ended up really in regards to King's Tide, in regards to because they're having to now work with basically effectively only 3 specials now after this. So they've not really got. I guess you could say, one argument I could say is that in regards to wrapping things up, Weird Mageddon in the Gravity Falls took about 3 episodes to wrap up in, and that was about 22:44, about what about 66 minutes, I think we could say.
Yeah,
roughly over an hour to sort out. They've got effectively 6 episodes worth to wrap up where Luz and everyone has ended up in King's Tide and be able to do that. But anyway, we'll talk about that in the Twitter space coming up.
But by the way, there were a lot of people who were actually defeated that, oh no, Dana Terrace is not able to tell the full story that she wanted to. And everybody was just complaining on social media, feeling so defeated and feeling so crushed by it. And then somebody actually pointed out saying, man, I'm just sick and tired of people just really being broken with the fact that Dana Terrace has so little stuff to talk about. And then Dana herself posted on social media saying that, yes, it sucks, but at the same time, we can be able to, create as much stories as we can with that short amount of time. We just have the creativity to be able to tell the stories that we can. So, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are really, really, really upset that we're only going to get these 45-minute specials as our season 3, as opposed to like 20 episodes, just like we had with Amphibia, or another full season, just like with Gravity Falls. But, I mean, I think that with the limitations of the time, I think they're just going to cut off a lot of the filler and they're just going to get to the good stuff. So I think that we're going to get something good at the end. It may not be the full package, but at least we'll get something really good.
Yeah. Anyway, going on with the episode that we watched. So, the King is dreaming about the voice of the Collector, and Emperor Bell is communicating. So he got. He actually managed to hear the Collector again, and so they definitely do have like a connection with one another, and obviously that's going to play out throughout the episode when we get to the end. So there was that, and so then there was the moment on the airship, and it looks like everyone's on edge and really tense because I mean, obviously, Hunter is not too happy with the way Alador is kind of like steering the ship, and Alador himself is probably not too happy with the way Hunter is trying to like take command. And then you got Amity, pacing around, worrying about Luz because obviously she's been sent over to Bellows via Kikimora, and then everyone else is just hungry. So like so everyone's kind of at each other's throats at that point. But then their palisman's pretty much reminding them that hey, you're not you when you're hungry. So their palisman's pretty much reminding that. So so in regards to so one thing I also discovered is that the reason why Amity is called Mittens is because Alador used to put mittens on her abomination mittens on her hands when she was cold, when she was younger. So that's the reason why they called it that.
So that's actually really cute, by the way. That is a very cute name.
Yeah. So, the Day of Unity is taking place. They're gathering everybody up, towards the tower, and basically the plan to disrupt the draining spell is put into place. So, Ida, Lilith, and Rain have like one last get together, and before obviously the plan gets put into place, Ida disguises herself as Rain under an illusion, and she's also got she does actually get the sigil because the way they left it in clouds on the horizon is that. We didn't know if Ida actually got the sigil or not. Because obviously they kind of like, they hid the fact, they actually kind of like panned the camera away from it. So they were kind of, I don't know if they were like saying, oh, well, Ida didn't get the sigil or not. So they was kind of like playing that tension up as well. But then, obviously you can see that the Covens Against the Throne members were obviously disguised as, soldiers. In Coven Scouts, so they were basically in the apparatus, and so it looks like the whole thing is set up, ready to go, and Emperor Bellows comes in and puts in the glyph to like do the draining spell, but just as a last thing, which looks like it's kind of like jeopardizes the plan. They switched the places of the Coven heads to that.
So they switched Eberwolf with Adrian, who's a mess, as we saw with Labyrinth Runners, where I guess he just couldn't get over what Gus had did to him in the last episode. And then Darius was switched over with Tara, who is completely unfazed with the fact that she knows that is not Rain.
Mm-hmm. So all that falls apart because Rain and Darius end up kind of fighting all the other Coven heads, and so but then obviously it's I think like the healing Coven head like pulls out a scalpel and like holds its like Aberwolf's face or something like that, and so then ends up having to like give up the fight because he obviously cares about Aberwolf. So then the draining spell then starts to take effect, and then Terra finally realizes like, oh hey, we've been had, and it's far too late to do anything about it. So they end up like having all their magic drained. Meanwhile, Bellows is in the head of the Titan, and he's got the door ready for him to basically go home. And but the Collector says, "Oh, hang on a second, we had a deal that once we got the draining spell going, you were going to let me out." The Bellows betrays him and throws him off a bridge. So that was, I guess that's not too surprising. I guess seeing that.
No, I mean, this is the same guy who pretty much just carries on this huge facade saying, "Oh, I care about you. I'm doing this because the Titan says so, and he wants us to be together so we can be in peace and harmony, and we'll go into paradise, and you'll be given ranks of royalty, and blah blah blah." But in reality, he's just a huge manipulator, saying all of these things to all of his followers just so he could be able to get what he wants. I mean, we saw the stress that Kikimora had to go through in episodes just as Eclipse Lake and Follies of the Coven's Day Parade, and then this episode where she was demoted, and then she, was basically like delivering over to quote unquote Hunter to Bellows, when in reality that's Luz, and even he knew that that wasn't Hunter, and so he just said, "Why don't you just go find yourself a hole and just lay in there?" He clearly doesn't care, and we saw the stress that Hunter had to go through even before he knew he was a Grimoire. Like in Eclipse Lake, when he was told, "I need to get this key, otherwise Emperor Bellows is not going to have anything to do with me." There was this huge pressure that was there. And so the fact that Bellows is willing to do anything he can just so he can get home, he's willing to betray so many witches, he's willing to betray so many people, and even to the point in which he had this deity who has been helping him for hundreds of years. He decides that he's just going to toss him away like if he's nothing. He was just another pawn in his plan to get home.
Yeah. So, we do get a fight between Luz and Emperor Bellows, and we're expecting it to be more Return of the Jedi, but unfortunately it was more Empire Strikes Back, because Luz is still not powerful enough to take on Bellows by herself. So, yeah, and, but funny enough, so instead she tries to outsmart him, and so, which she ends up doing, she ends up using the invisible spell on the sigil glove, on her desk, and so she makes a deal with Bellows to basically guide him through the human realm, so he doesn't look like a crazy person, spouting about how he's taken on the demon realm and won and stuff like that. So she goes to shake Bellows' hands to make the deal, but not unknowing to him, she's actually got the sigil glove on. She puts on a Emperor's Coven's sigil, and the draining spell ends up affecting him. Pretty much.
Yeah, and that was really smart considering that Luz was super, super close of being petrified.
Mm-hmm. So, she demands then for Bellows to stop the spell, and but he can't do it because he can only how to stop it. He started, but he doesn't know how to stop it because he learned the draining spell from the Collector. So he ends up morphing into the Wendigo creature, and then obviously they have that fight too. So, it's one boss battle goes to another, pretty much.
Yeah, so. But very similar to a video game, at least she has backup, because that's when Amity, Gus, Willow, and Hunter come in to save the day.
Yeah, but even they're all not powerful enough to stop him. It's and they all he even uses keep in mind Bellows is kind of like an abomination in part himself. He can also control plants, and he can also control various other magic. He's basically Emperor's Coven magic pretty much in regards to that. He's basically very hypocritical as a witch hunter when you really think about it. But even then, yeah. he even uses his ability to as illusions against Hunter to say he puts his his Uncle Bellows' face on and says, "Why are you doing this to me, Hunter? I thought you wanted to help me, not hurt me." And so, Hunter says finally says that you're lying. But then Bellows recognizes the talisman that Hunter has, and he yells out, "Caleb!" That's
great foreshadowing. So if you remember from the episode "Any Sport in a Storm," where Hunter is going over to Hexid to try to convince all the students to join up with the Emperor's Coven. And he's trying to think of a name to tell to Willow and Gus when he was confronted regarding the signing up for the team. We had Flapjack who whispered the name Caleb to him. And so that is a bit of a foreshadow, because now we know that it used to belong to Philip's brother, and now we know his name is Caleb.
Yeah, and Gus tries to blindside Emperor Bellows with illusion magic and trying to recall all his bad memories, but he ends up seeing them too, and he ends up getting affected by it. So so he actually
and what we saw Hollow Mind, those memories are pretty messed up.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, so it looks like Gus knows that Hunter is a Grimwalker. So that's gonna be a discussion. I think that's gonna come up in the later season. From looks.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment. But there was this really interesting discussion that we have to bring up. So rewinding a little bit, where Bellows was trying to warn Luce that these witches have corrupted you and brainwashed you to stay in here. I don't want you to be like me. I'm affected by it. It's actually a pretty interesting point that a lot of people online were bringing up, saying that Luce is kind of like a person who's trying to run away from the real world and go into this imaginative world or this fictional world, as they may, because she wants to go away from. People have been bringing it up lately, and people are saying that Bellows actually had a. What do you think?
Well, I think he was just trying to manipulate her like usual.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what he does. He will whisper the sweetest things, the things that'll make you feel insecure. He will do all of that, and so none of that was surprising to me that he would mention all of that. Really.
No. I mean, even Luce says, "You're the biggest hypocrite I know." That you're trying to save humanity, but you're barely human yourself. And yeah, I mean that thing that Bellows was trying to say to Luce is like, no, I don't want you to be affected by these witches. Come home and get away from this place because they're just going to brainwash you into saying that they're good or something like that. When in reality, no, he's been the bad guy this entire time.
Exactly. Yeah. So none of what he said surprised me really. So it's just all garbage. So
yeah.
So so basically this whole fight scene goes on, and while that's going on, the draining spell is still happening, and but unfortunately, Ida is unable to stop it, and is basically becoming, is starting to become cursed herself while this is going on, and so Rain, grabs her and says, "I promised Luz that I was going to protect you," and she rips off her arm, that's a little less gruesome than you think. We saw it kind of foreshadowed pretty much that Ida can basically take off her limbs. It's not nothing that's unusual in the show, but she takes off her arm and it basically disintegrates. And but it was the arm with the sigil on it. So Rain basically saves Ida's life pretty much doing that, and she ends up collapsing in her arms. So
yeah, exactly. So we don't know if Rain is dead. But it almost looks like his life, their life is almost drained.
Well, let's get to that, shall we? So, while all of this is going on, King finds Kikimora, and he says, there has to be a way for Emperor Bellows to stop the spell. Kikimora has dropped, this entire time, she's been listening into the conversations between the Collector and Emperor Bellows, and only the Collector is able to stop the draining spell. So, she takes King to the Collector, and not only do they that, they basically find all the bones of all the former Golden Guards down there as well. It's a pretty gruesome scene.
Yeah, wow. They went there, that's for sure.
Well, basically, Kikimora says, these were the failures, which is a line out of Panzer Dragoon Saga. Pretty much.
Well, not only that, but also there were a lot more skulls and masks of the Golden Guard than we saw in Hollow Knight. We saw maybe 12, 15 or something like that. But there's more. It looked like 25 or 30.
Yeah, something like that. But they end up getting the Collector's mirror at that point, and so but then we find out this entire time the reason why the Collector couldn't find out that it was King that was trying to talk with him is because the collar that King was wearing was actually protecting the Collector from protecting him from being seen from the Collector. So he takes it off, and then the Collector finally sees him.
Not just the collar, but the carving that King did that was in the collar was what prevented the Collector from seeing.
Yeah, exactly. So he takes that off, and the Collector can now see him, and he basically makes a deal to let the Collector out of their prison to basically in order to stop the draining spell. So that happens, and you can see that.
Not only that, but we also learn that how the Collector was able to be imprisoned in the first place was because he was saying, "Oh wow, you look familiar. Are you, a bigger guy a long time ago tracked me in here? Are you his daddy? Are you like the Titan's dad here, son or something like that?"
You know what? I actually forgot all that bit. So it'd be interesting to see what the history is between the Titan and the Collector. So interesting to see what that's.
Yeah, we're probably going to find out in
Yeah, but I mean, moving on with the story just quickly is that all the kids lose everybody. Like they've been fighting Bellas for ages, and now they're all exhausted. But Bellas is still not defeated, and it looks like he's about to strike the final blow and basically kill all these characters off. But he stopped in his tracks by the Collector. And by the way, everyone been, this is another thing as well, like which people were disappointed at. Like apparently that the Collector didn't possess Luz, like there was going to be described like all the fan arts and fan fictions that everyone's been writing, and it's like
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
You know something? If you're disappointed with that, and like that's the reason why you don't like this episode, that's on you, buddy. Like it's not up for Dana to like decipher random fan fictions. It's like that's what I'm going to do with the show. That's on you. So, like, maybe you should wait until, like, after the episode is aired to, like, make these decisions, huh? But, anyway.
I guess another reason why a lot of people were disappointed with that is because, they felt that it was very similar to True Colors, except that, well, no, not really. I mean, one part is, but we'll get to that in a moment. But, yeah, I mean, the whole thing about, like, it's too similar to True Colors, it's like, yeah, I mean, and...
Yeah. So like I mean, it goes like no, it's not similar to True Colors. Like there was different. There's definitely differences between the two. Definitely. But in regards to so carrying on with this episode, so the Collector's finally been released, and he basically defeats Emperor Bellos in one shot. Pretty much, and he's like Bellos is just like is now a stain on the wall, pretty much, literally. So like, and so everyone is like really shocked about how powerful the Collector actually is, and but the Collector thinks that they're playing tag, and like this is the thing that really confuses me about the Collector because like I mean like is this guy like is he just like just a an immature child who thinks like he's just playing like a constant game pretty much, or like is that just kind of like part of his persona and he is aware that he is doing bad shit? Like like
I mean, you know what? It kind of going back into another Pokemon reference again. It's very similar to Sabrina, in which like the psychic agent later. So when
okay, you have to forgive me, everybody. Patricia's breaking up really badly, so I'm just gonna. But just continue on with like.
I was just saying that it's very similar to the. If you remember Sabrina, the psychic cheerleader, and Ash lost to her. He made a promise saying that if you lose, you're going to play with me. And so he lost big time, by the way. And in the end, Misty and Brock were captured by Sabrina's doll, who just so happens to be her younger self. And they're trapped in a dollhouse, and they're turned into dolls, and they have to play with her forever. And until Ash would come back and defeat Sabrina again. So it kind of reminds me of that, in which like the Collector is saying, I want you to play with me forever. I want to play a whole bunch of new games. And then King's like, we can play this game called The Owl House. And so, if we do that, then, we can, if you do that, if we play this game and if you free all of my friends and if you free all the people, because we need a lot of people, can you just get rid of the eclipse that's going on? Then we'll be able to play. So, yeah, kind of, again, going into Pokemon vibes again.
Yeah, which is kind of like, but mind you, putting Pokemon aside, like, what does the Collector gain from this? Like, is he like a...
Well, I mean, not being trapped for hundreds of years and being able to just go out and not be alone.
Well, no, I'm not talking about, like, being released from, like, the prison. Obviously, there's that, but it's like, what's this guy's deal? Like, why does he want to perpetually, like, play games? Like, what is his, like, is he, is that, like, him just being, like, his childish self, or is that, like, is that just, is that just, like, his thing? And, like, he knows that what he does is really evil, and, like, he affects a lot of people. Like, is he just kind of, like, some kind of deranged sociopath who just, like, is he like that guy from the Saw movies, from, like, the horror movies? Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to put, like, a finger on this guy yet. I know we've only seen him for, like, a couple of seconds, but, usually, I mean, hopefully in season 3 they'll establish him a bit more as a character, but at the moment, I'm just confused.
I'm sure that they'll establish him. I mean, I don't know if he's like a Bill Cipher character in which he just wants chaos in the world.
I hope not. Like we've had Bill Cipher already. Like we don't need. It's like oh hey, let's go off to the Owl House to get Bill Cipher. It's like well we have Bill Cipher at home. You know, like it's just it's it's
I think he's just a perpetual child who just wants to play all the time. That's all.
yeah.
I mean, I think once we know more information about the collector, that's all we're going to leave it at for now. I think he just wants to play. That's
Yeah.
all.
Like, you know, I hope it's not like going to be like, oh, well, the way we defeat the collector is through friendship. You know, like, he just wants a friend. You know, like, he's just like, you know, it's like, what? Is this going to be like the finale to Ernest Scared Stupid? Like, you know, like, all it is, like, you know, he's got to hook the troll to, like, you know, make him disappear. Like, it's...
we need some meow.
Oh, no. So, so basically that's so the collector's now been unleashed, and so he then basically ends the draining spell by just moving his finger across, and like so he's clearly like, and again like this is like, you know, a villain that you look at, like, you know, you think only Goku can beat this guy. Like, you know, yeah, I kind of don't really like those villains all that much, really. Like, you know, I mean, the only way I can see them, like, defeating the Collector is, like, they end up playing his game, he ends up losing, like, you know, and, like, it's like some kind of, like, oh, if you lose, you have to basically, you know, not, you know, do this anymore, you have to leave by going back into the stars or whatever. You know, like, he has to do something, but I don't know, I think that's the direction they're going to go with the Collector, I think, but that's just me. But anyway, we'll save that for like the Twitter space when we go on that tomorrow. But in regards to the story, so the Collector defeats Emperor Bellows, and then he gets the promise that, you know, we're going to play Owl House now, and in order to, like, he ends up he says this really confusing line, like he says, oh well, in order to play Owl House, we're going to need an Owl House, so he ends up like pulling apart the entire world from the looks of it, and then, so the only way that they can escape is basically going into the human realm and going through a door. So, they end up going through that, but the door starts to fall apart, and Luz has to basically hold the thing together to allow people to escape. And but while she's doing that, King gets flown off her shoulder, and she's having to hold on to him for dear life because the Collector's trying to, like, pinky swear him to come back. And while Luz is trying to save King, King says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't go with you this time." And he ends up, we're using his voice powers to like force them through the door. So which, is a pretty powerful moment, I think, in itself. So
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, we had Ida, you know, basically sacrificing her life in the season 1, and now we have King doing it for season 2, where he's being left behind with the Collector, while Luz and Gus, Willow, and Hunter are transported into the human realm with absolutely no way of return.
Yeah, which I think this kind of thing I think disappointed a lot of fans as well, because, like, you know, they were hoping that Gus is going to, like, you know, marvel on, like, you know, the human rain and everything like that, and also there was this comic that Maureen Mark also did of, like, Amity, like, you know, like dancing in the rain and stuff like that, and the fact that they kind of like thrown through after like this whole traumatic experience, and that's like their first, you know, venture into the human world. It's like yeah, a lot of fans were disappointed at that from what I can see. So
I mean, let's see what we have here. Gus literally just saw the mind of Emperor Bellows. Amity had to leave her father behind while he was fighting off abominations. And Hunter had just reunited with Bellows in his Wendigo form and, you know, as a monster. And we have Willow, who's just trying to, you know, basically like put all the, you know, composure together of trying to comfort everyone. And Luz, not only she lost King, she thought she's losing Ida, and, you know, now she's not able to return into the human realm. So everybody's going through a lot of trauma. So this whole, oh, I'm excited to be in the human realm. Oh, it's raining outside. Let's just dance around. It's like, that would be just so out of place.
Yeah. So, also it's implied that Bellows probably, you know, made it into the human world as well, because part of his, like, mud, like, you know, attached to himself to, Hunter's shoulder. So, and then also in the, then also actually before we even get to the credit scene, there is a Easter egg for the people are now speculating that Amphibia and the Owl House now exist in the same world because of like what was on the tablet.
You're trying to tell me that the Easter egg now confirms it, as opposed to like the dozens of other Easter eggs that we've seen from both shows.
Yeah, and also the crossover thing that they did at the Comic-Con as well. So like, it's kind of it's definitely applied now. One fun thing I'd like to see in season 3. I mean, like, I guess you can say this is a bit of a teaser for like when we go to the Twitter space. But one thing I'd like something to see is like they have like a Zoom meeting with like Anne and like Marcy and like Sasha and stuff, and they're discussing about about what alternative ways they can basically get to back into the Boiling Isles. And maybe they drop them the thing like oh no, you don't need Titan blood, you can just all you need is a powerful enough generator and some musical notes. You can basically transport back to the Boiling Isles by doing that. But obviously then they argue that they can't. The last portal that they made didn't generate enough power, so they need another power source. So
yeah, and they have. I mean, unless they're going to use their palisman, what power source are they going to have?
We'll see. So, so they end up going to her mom's house, and you got poor, Luz, and it's nice to see that, Luz and her mother are finally, reunited again, but oh my goodness, the circumstances are terrible.
Yeah. It is beyond horrible, and now that's basically the end of season 2, because it just leaves it off right there with Luz, saying to her mom, "Hey, I'm back." So that's how it ends. And the last thing that I guess we need to mention is that shortly after the episode came out, Dana Terrace posted up a photo of all the kids just looking either really tired or really defeated after V just bandaged them up. So, they have gone through some really bad stuff.
Yeah, and even then, like the very last second of the credits, like it shows, from what's supposedly probably Emperor Bella's closing the door.
Yeah.
I know,
so now we have to wait another couple of months for that episode to come.
From what I understand, it's going to be October.
It'll be appropriate.
Yeah. Anyway, until then, here's the thing about this. I did actually enjoy this episode, regardless of how the fans reacted to it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was pretty good too, and
it was great. Like, it backed in a lot of stuff. So, it was an achievement in itself to pull off.
Yeah, I think it was really commendable.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody, we do apologize. Yeah, Patricia's just going in and out at this point, so I just think that maybe we'll probably end it here, and we'll probably hopefully when we come into the next episode, hopefully we'll have a better audio quality. So we'll work on that. We'll promise you. So anyway. Patricia, before you end up kind of disconnecting, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
See everyone.
Okay. And from me, thanks very much we've really enjoyed talking about the Owl House, and I think we'll definitely talk about it a bit more, maybe at length when we do a casual chats on it eventually somewhere down the line, but until then, take care everybody. We'll see you in a couple of days for this week's episode. So this was last week's episode pretty much, and so yeah, take care everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.